Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Vashti Sarah, and you are plugged into another episode of All the Things. So today we're going to be talking about a really touchy topic. I've done several polls on this on my Instagram, and y'all have a lot to say about it. And here's my reaction and comment to that. So a couple weeks back, I did a poll on flirting and, what that looks like and is it even acceptable? And y'all had a lot of feedback about it. And then recently I did another poll about flirting and especially in marriage and what that looks like. And again, y'all did not disappoint, and I appreciate the honesty. Obviously, I'm not going to expose anyone or, say, well, this person said this and blah, blah, blah. Because, at the end of the day, we are all entitled to our own opinions. And at the end of the day, it's personal conviction to some degree. I do believe that if the Bible is very clear about issues, and this is just the black and white in me coming out, that there's no, a gray area in that. It's just, that's what the Lord says. This is what we should do as Christians. However, when it comes to the topic, drumroll please, of flirting, there's a lot of opinions on this. And for instance, I said flirting with others when married is harmless. And of the, I think it's 200 to 300 of y'all that responded to it, 6% said yes, it's harmless. And 94% said no. In other words, it's not harmless, if I'm understanding it correctly. Flirting with others when married is harmless. 6% of y'all said yes. And then no, yeah, it is definitely harmless. And then we get into other questions where's this other one? Married couples can have best friends of the opposite sex. And I think this goes kind of coincides with the whole flirting thing. 15% of y'all said absolutely, 47% of y'all said no, and then 38% of y'all said debatable. And then we have another one, single women flirt with married men more than single men flirt with married women. This one is pretty interesting. Of the 200 plus of y'all that responded, said 52% of y'all said yes, and 48% of y'all said no. So pretty interesting feedback. I appreciate all the honesty. And for those of you who actually wrote me narratives of why you believe what you believe, I appreciate it because a lot of the times we can take answers at surface level and you kind of defended why you believe what you believe, and we agree to disagree. So today we're going to talk about it's just flirting, it's harmless, and navigating the fine line, the dangers and the consequences of flirting. So I'll just say off the bat, flirting is fun and it may seem harmless. It's one of those things that I feel like is probably engraved in us as humans, especially women. We know how to flirt. We know how to get things. We know how to maneuver a way around things. Like I know if I'm in a store and I'm trying to haggle a deal, I'd probably go to the guy because the guy's a little bit more lenient towards the female, especially if she's smaller and seems a little bit more innocent. You can finagle around and get a better deal and, bat your eyes or, talk in a cute little voice. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Can I get 20% off? And they'll probably give you 20% off. So, flirting can be fun. It can be something that, it seems harmless. It's an innocuous behavior, but flirting is dangerous. And it's one of those things that I feel like we make excuses for way too often, and we don't realize the reality of it. It can lead to infidelity, especially if you are married or in a committed dating relationship. So I'm currently reading this book called Loving Your Marriage Enough to Protect It. Not that my husband and I are having marital problems, but I was very curious on the data and the backstory of infidelity in marriages and why it's so prevalent, especially in the Christian community. So I am doing my own research and had this podcast episode already, the outline of it already prepared. And then we get to the chapter of the dynamics of flirtation. And, you know, the author, Jerry Jenkins, by the way, this is a very old book. I do recommend reading it. So far, I am loving it. Very captivating, and it proves the point that anyone is capable of falling. Anyone is capable of infidelity if we don't have a hedge over our marriage. Some of y'all may feel like this is just an extreme way to conduct marriage and you're just being controlling, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, if your marriage is something that is sacred to you, you'll want to protect it. Just as if you have a child, you'll do whatever it takes to protect that child. And yeah, anyways, I digressed a little bit, but I will link this book in the description of this video. I do highly recommend reading it. If you're having marital problems, the perfect book to read and start implementing certain habits in your marriage. If you don't have marital problems, it's phenomenal. It gives you a different perspective on why people commit adultery and how they fall into that trap. And, you know, like I said, my husband and I are doing great. A lot of the quote unquote rules or restrictions that we have in our marriage, they emphasize in this book. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. We're on a safe path here. But anyways, dynamics of flirtation. Flirting is fun and usually begins in innocence. It's a hard habit to break even after marriage. Yet it causes jealousy. Worse, it puts us into situations where we never intended to fall into. And it creates misunderstanding that can lead to infidelity. Here's the thing. Flirting, like I said, and I will probably emphasize many a times, it is fun. And it kind of gives us a dopamine hit. It kind of gives us that little tinge of, ooh, I still got game. But what we don't realize, and this specific episode is geared towards married couples or couples who are in a committed relationship. What we don't realize when we entertain flirting is that we are opening up the door to a relationship to be birthed. We're opening up a door where lines can be crossed, where things kind of become hazy, and we allow different relationships to enter very innocently, and then it becomes very dangerous and infidelity creeps in and we don't realize it. So let's begin by defining what flirting is and exploring, the various forms of it. Flirting can be described as playful or suggestive behavior aimed at indicating romantic or sexual interest. And the mere fact that this is the definition of flirting on Google should be a red flag. It should scream, oh, this is probably something I shouldn't do in marriage. It can encompass verbal and nonverbal cues such as compliments, teasing, body language. While flirting is often seen as harmless, it's easy to understand its potential. It's essential to understand its potential implications. So, if Google says it, it must be real, right? But no. So flirting is a behavior aimed towards indicating romantic or sexual interest. Now, I know for many of y'all who are married, you're going to say, well, Vashti, I'm not flirting because I'm sexually attracted to someone. I just wanted a discount at Ross. That's great. But flirting portrays to the other person, the person that's receiving that, it's, oh, you think I'm cute. Oh, you think I'm attractive. Oh, you want something from me. So you're giving me that in order for me to give back to you. So it's an exchange. And while it might seem harmless, it can be detrimental. Now, I'm not saying if you're trying to finagle your way at Ross or Target, or, well, you really can't finagle at Target, but if you're trying to finagle at a local store, that this is the gravest sin you could do. What I'm specifically targeting are the friendships that we have in our marriage and entertaining flirting with the opposite sex or even the same sex, because let's be honest. There's a lot of same-sex relationships happening right now. LGBTQ and homosexuality is pretty rampant. And I think that's just a part of what this generation is struggling with the most. And the root of that is identity issues and identity crisis. And that's a topic for another time. But what I'm trying to gear towards is the relationships that we have that constantly surround us and are entertaining of flirting, are entertaining of little gestures and making side eyes with that person, or having inside jokes, or, being buddy buddy with them and being okay with touching their shoulder and playing with their hair, or whatever it may be, whatever flirting looks like. That is extremely dangerous, because no more are those subtle movements and subtle cues for you and your spouse. You've opened that door and said, hey, this is for anyone who I find remotely attractive, or for anyone who I'm buddy buddy with or friends with. And we don't realize that can easily spur other emotions and other thoughts and other feelings. Because what you might not know, innocently flirting with your husband's friend, because I don't know why, but what you might not know is that your husband's friend is also having marital issues, or, him and his wife are going through marital issues right now. And you giving them attention put thoughts in his head. Well, maybe there's something there. She is kind of cute. My wife's not giving me attention. Let me reciprocate. And then that reciprocation turns into confiding in each other or having jokes. And then, one thing leads to an next, and then you find yourself in bed with another man. So, and that's not being dramatic. It's just the nature of it. Time and time again, we see, you hear about different couples cheating on each other, and you're like, oh my gosh, what? I would have never thought that would have happened. But why? It's because we cracked one little door open and we said, this is innocent. This is harmless. It's not hurting anyone. It's fine. I'm just playing around. I'm just friendly. And we use quote unquote friendly, but let's be real. You get some type of dopamine hit or some type of feeling inside where you're getting attention for the flirting that you're giving to someone else. So very, 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 very dangerous. And the fact is, it is aimed towards romantic and sexual interest. Whether we like it or not, we want to admit it or not, that's the idea. That's the purpose of flirting, to tell someone, hey, I'm interested in you. Hey, I like you. I like how you look. I want your attention. Let's exchange something in this. So what makes flirting appealing, and what are the risks associated with indulging in it? Flirting can be exciting. It boosts your confidence. It makes it's an attractive way to interact with others. And, when we don't manage it carefully, it leads to a lot of misunderstandings. It leads to jealousy in your relationship. It can even harm existing ones. The intention behind flirting and emotional impact on all parties involved should be carefully considered before doing it. In other words, just don't think that there won't be complications for what you're doing. At the end of the day, it's not that in a relationship you can't have fun, you can't have friends. No one's saying that. However, when we start becoming comfortable and opening that door where we're showing interest with another person just for fun, it's innocent, we don't realize the damage that we're doing to our current relationship, the damage that we're doing to the covenant that we've made between, you and your spouse. And we allow someone else in, and it's, oh, she's just pretty, I'm just flirting with her. Or she's just a friend, I'm just flirting with her. He's just this, I'm just playing around with him. Why do you need to play with them? Why do you need to have inside jokes with them? My husband and I have very, very hard, fast rules. And one of them is we don't have relationship at all with the opposite sex. To some of y'all might think that is controlling, that is, you don't trust him, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, we're trying to protect something that's super sacred to us. And our marriage is sacred. Our future is sacred. How we want to raise our kids is sacred. The moment that I become comfortable confiding in another man, that opens the door for infidelity, whether we like it or not. The moment we allow it, the moment my husband starts entertaining flirtatious thoughts, starts complimenting another woman and telling her, oh, you look pretty, or I like your hair, or nice dress, that opens the door for a whole ton of different things, because what? That plants a seed in that other woman's head. Oh, Jared finds me attractive. Oh, Jared thought it was nice to compliment me. And the list goes on. And then she starts complimenting back. And then he gets compliments from another woman if I'm not complimenting him. And, it's a rippling effect. So we don't realize the dangers of it. We might think it's harmless. We might think it's nothing. It's just being friendly. It's just being, nice and kind to someone. But kindness and that niceness, quote unquote, remains only in your relationship, remains only in your marriage, and it should be reserved for your spouse. No one else. I don't need to tell any other guy, hey, you look nice today. No, that's not my job to compliment them. My dad, sure. Dad, you look great. I like that shirt. My brothers, hey, you look awesome. You lost weight, or, you're looking fit and toned. That's great. Those are my brothers. But other than my husband and my brothers, no one else should get compliments from me. Vice versa. Same with Jared. No one else should get compliments from him except for me and his sister and mom. That's about it. And again, I know I might be sound a little bit harsh to a lot of people, but that's the gravity that we take to protect our marriage, because I don't want any room for jealousy. I don't want any room for someone else to say, what Vashti's saying or her behavior is questionable. Don't give room for the devil to speak. Don't give him a crack to plant thoughts in your mind that suddenly you start entertaining and you realize, I wonder why I think about that person that way. Maybe because you opened a door and you didn't even realize it. So now, flirting can sometimes blur the lines between innocent interaction and emotional infidelity. Emotional infidelity occurs when a person becomes emotionally invested in someone other than their partner. Flirting can serve as a gateway to this type of infidelity. Emotional connection established through flirting can gradually become more intense. It's crucial to realize when the line is being crossed and take steps to protect the primary relationships, other words, your marriage. Flirting opens that door. Flirting can serve as a gateway. Flirting brings an emotional connection, and we don't even realize how intense it is, because that flirting, that joking around, think about it. When you and your spouse first, got together, what led to getting their attention? What led you to being captivated by them? Flirting, probably, right? Your husband started flirting with you and you realize, ooh, I like that guy. He's giving me attention. He decided to joke with me. He decided to, touch my shoulder, or whatever it may be, whatever flirting techniques that they used. Flirting led to you being attracted to them, led to you confiding in them, led to a relationship being birthed, it led to marriage, led to sex, etc., etc. So flirting bonds you and that person, and we don't even realize it. And then jealousy, insecurity can arise from that. And, here's the thing. Your primary focus should be your marriage. If you realize that a relationship or a connection you have with someone else is causing jealousy, is causing insecurity in your marriage, cut it out. That other person does not matter. Does not at all. And for some, you might say, well, that's just being so controlling. That person just needs to be secure in themselves. That person struggles with their own stuff. No, your job as the spouse, your job as a significant other is to protect the heart of your spouse, is to protect the image of your spouse. And if your spouse is feeling jealousy and insecure because of some other type of relationship or friendship you have with someone else, cut it off. It's not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it. They're not being controlling. They're not being having, insecurity issues, or they might have insecurity issues. But like I said, your job is to protect their heart, protect your heart, protect your family's image, protect your home's image. And, Jared and I practice this often. So I work with predominantly men, and they're all Christians. great men that I work with. However, I have to be honest with him and he's honest with me. Hey, I don't want you to be having conversations with them one-on-one. They shouldn't be confiding in you, and the list goes on. And I know that. And there are times where I have to be like, that's a little bit too much. I shouldn't know that information. And I let my husband know, hey, so-and-so let me know this. I need to, protect myself, keep my office door closed, and don't entertain that heart to heart, not heart to heart, because I don't ever say much. I just keep quiet and I listen. But that heart pouring out, I don't need to know that information. That's not my job to counsel you. And my job is also not to listen to you. My job is simply to do what I'm called to do in that specific field, and it's accounting. And if it's a female, sure, I will listen. I will give advice. I will, be compassionate towards you. But as a male, if it's a male, that's where my guard goes up, because the door can easily crack open whenever we start exchanging personal information, personal things that's going on in our life, and you realize, I can trust this person. Then we start flirting with each other, and it goes downhill from there. So my job is to protect my husband. My husband's job is to protect me. We protect each other's heart by putting up those boundaries, that stopping it the moment it comes up, or even before it comes up, finding those warning signs. And individuals who might try to come on to my husband, I step in. I'm sorry. You have no right flirting with my husband. You have no right trying to shoot your shot, because he's married. He's very taken, and he has a kid on the way. So very, very, very protective. And my husband is the same with me. We don't mess around, because our marriage is extremely important. And we don't want to bring anyone else in a relationship. And to be frank, our marriage is between Jared, myself, and God. 3 people, 3 individuals. That's it. No one else is a part of that relationship, and it should never be that way. If someone else starts inserting themselves in your marriage, that's where things can become detrimental. Well, they're just a friend. Well, they're yada yada. They're innocent. They're helpful, whatever it may be. No, get them out of your relationship. They don't belong there. Scoot them away and tell them, don't even come back, because you have no right in my relationship. Get out. Seems harsh, but you have to be harsh, because your marriage requires harsh actions. It requires you to do whatever it takes to defend it and protect it. So establishing and respecting boundaries is key. You have to create those boundaries when it comes to flirting. It can be difficult whenever you've had a habit of being flirtatious or friendly or super kind, to break that whenever you enter into a relationship or marriage. It can be very difficult, because that's just a part of your nature. However, you have to allow your spouse to guide you through that. And Jared has been so kind to me, because I've always been a friendly and kind and, happy person. And what I don't realize is my friendliness can be interpreted as flirtatiousness. So I've always been the type of person where I'll notice certain details. I'll notice when you get a haircut. I'll notice when you get a new shirt. I pay attention to details. Very good at that. And I had to realize that paying attention to details to a single guy might come across as flirting. That paying attention to details to a married man might come across as if I'm noticing them. So I hold back on my thoughts. Now, there are certain individuals where Jared and I, there's this mutual understanding. You can tell them nice shirt, because there's no way something's going to happen there. So, we have these ways that we protect each other and show each other and guide each other through that process, especially for me as someone who's always been friendly and kind to people, learning to navigate that kindliness and friendliness and what is flirting and can come across as flirting, and to back off and learn when to say certain things in order to protect my marriage and in order to protect myself. And to protect the other person too from having thoughts come up in their head. So how can engaging in excessive and inappropriate flirting impact one's self-image and reputation? This is a big one. Engaging in inappropriate or excessive flirting can damage one's self-esteem and reputation. It can lead to a perception of being insecure or lacking integrity. Building healthy relationship requires authenticity and mutual respect, and excessive flirting can undermine these principles. What we don't realize is that when we allow flirting to be a part of our verbiage and a part of our character, we look very insecure. We look like we don't have integrity. We make it appear as if our marriage is hurting. You make it appear as if your marriage is very careless and very open. Flirting damages the self-esteem and reputation, and we don't even realize it. When we remove ourselves from flirting, when we practice and flee from that, we protect our self-image, we build somewhat of a persona of, self-confidence. My husband, because he's so strong and firm on a lot of things, people look up to him, figuratively and literally. They look up to him. And I look up to him. And it's, to some, it might be, oh, your husband's just so serious all the time and he's yada, yada, yada. No, I find it so attractive. The fact that he's very protective. I find it very attractive that he doesn't hug other women. He gives them high fives. It's one of the most admirable things, watching him interact with other women, how respectful he is. He's very respectful behind closed doors and in front of other people. And that's what makes me even more attracted to him. So it builds integrity. It builds that manliness in him. Same with me. When I respect myself in behind closed doors, when I'm at work in front of him, it builds that same persona. You have a reputation where, oh, she loves her husband. Oh, she is a woman of integrity. Oh, she's, whatever it may be. So it's important to realize that it's not just the jealousy and insecurity that can be built and the distrust that can come whenever you flirt, but it's also how it affects you and how society views you. But before we conclude this episode, before we, finish up this topic, I want to emphasize that the Bible does speak on this, and it might not outrightly say you should not flirt. Flirting is a sin, but it does talk about what a good person is and what it's like to treat other people and how we should fix our thoughts. So in Matthew 12:35, it tells us that a good person produces good words from a good heart, and an evil person produces words from an evil heart. We should surround ourselves and indulge ourselves in things that are pure in our minds. And hear me out here. I'm not saying that if you flirt with someone that it's impure, but it can lead to impure thoughts. It can lead to impure behavior. So another good one is Philippians 4:8. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right. Think about things that are pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy to be of praise. Flirting, again, it is described as harmless. However, rarely is it ever harmless. Rarely. The first thing to consider is that people generally think about those who flirt. Is what people generally think about those who flirt. A woman who flirts develops a reputation of being, promiscuous. You will find that woman, you tend to not dislike her. Like, I know my best friend and I, we talk about this all the time. There are certain women where it's like, I could care less to be around because they're just very flirty. They flirt with their body, they flirt with their eyes, they flirt with their mouth, and you just lose a lot of respect for them. Their reputation goes down, and they could be one of the most influential leaders, but their reputation goes down significantly because of how they portray themselves. And that's not women judging another woman. That's not a woman not supporting another woman. No, it's a woman honestly reviewing another woman and saying, look, you might be talented in all these areas, but you lack one thing. You lack reputation. You lack honor. You lack, I'm looking for this specific word. You lack integrity. And a flirtatious woman, whenever they start flirting and they use their body and language to get attention from other people, it honestly just makes you really insecure. You look really insecure and promiscuous. The same for a man. And whether it be winking or showing off your body or touching them, whatever it may be, whatever that action is to flirt, it just makes the man look less of a person. They look not trustworthy, and the list goes on. And the Bible is very specific about how we should respect our bodies, how we should respect ourselves, how we should treat the temple. And the temple of the body, is of the Lord. If you call yourself a Christian, your body is the temple of the Lord, and we should treat it with respect. And in treating it with respect and stewarding our bodies, we should be mindful and filter what comes out of our mouth, how we respond and treat others. And the last thing I want to say here is that, sin begins in our mind and then it moves in our heart. And we have to be careful what we allow to creep in here and there, and what we think are innocent, but actually it's sin. And sin can birth from a very, very small thought. It can birth from a very small or seemingly harmless action. And we got to be careful, because what we don't realize is the casualty that can come from our actions. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to be, perfect human beings, but our goal in life should be to strive to be like Christ. Our goal should be to strive to do whatever it takes to protect the ones that we love, and to walk honorably before the Lord, that whenever we face judgment day, God says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You fled from temptation. You fled from moments that could have caused detriment to your family." It's sad to me seeing all the different types of infidelity that occurs in marriages. And, we're all prone to it. We're all capable of doing it. None of us are of excuse. None of us are incapable of sinning. But what helps and what protects a marriage is creating these hard, fast rules, that hedge of protection, saying, I will do whatever it takes to protect the one that I love, whether it be a drastic measure that may seem crazy to everyone else. I will do just that. So I hope this episode encourages you and give you some type of perspective on flirting and the detriments of it. It really isn't something that is harmless. It's actually more, it does more damage than what we realize. And it brings a lot of harm, and there's major, major consequences for flirting. So the moment you can nip it in the bud, the earlier you can nip it in the bud, the better off you will be in your committed relationship or marriage. So thank you all for joining me today on this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.